Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wind Down Wednesday, episode 31. So I want to start tonight out by sending a shout out to my friend Susie at the Hush Salon here in Tucson. I went and got my hair cut and colored for the first time in almost a year today, and it's a little dark in here, so I'm going to actually get all up in your grill here and show you my beautiful purple highlights that I have wanted forever, and I finally had the courage to do that today. And why am I bringing that up on a spiritual meditation show, you might ask? Well, because spirituality at the root of it is about joy. Living in spiritual integration is about connecting to joy and connecting to who you really are, and sometimes things like purple hair help us do that. So we're going to talk about sound, and then we're going to play with some sound tonight. And I hope you'll come into this practice with an open mind, because sound is so powerful, and an intentional sound. We're talking about intentional sound tonight. So let's get into a little bit about what I'm talking about and what I mean by the word intentional. So I've given a few presentations this year so far about the power of sound, and it really got me thinking about the actual power of sound in my own life. So I realized as I kind of did two different presentations, and they had two different ideas behind them. And one of them, I talked a lot about the emotional healing that I've gotten from sound, as well as the physical. And then the other one was the physical pain event I did, where I talked about how sound really helped me release a long-standing pattern of pain in my body. And so this was my missing piece, this intentional use of sound. So I've been a musician since I was a kid. I have a degree in music. I've played music for years and years and years. I've always loved music. And oh, thanks, Kai. Sorry, I'm a little bit like interactive tonight because I can see my comments, and I asked a couple people to come because I wanted to like show off my new purple. So anyway, thank you, Kai. So sound and music have been my missing piece in terms of my spiritual practice, my energetic practice. I've been a musician for years, but I wasn't using music and sound in the intentional way that I started using it over the last year. And what do I mean by that? So I started writing music with a spiritual focus. I started channeling sound with the intention of just being present. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I heard this term, and I can't stop using it now. At the women's event I went to, one of the presenters used the term sneaky deep. So like when something's working on you at a really deep level, and then you're not necessarily knowing that there's this deep work going on, but then you look back and you're like, oh, well, wow, that was really deep. So sound is sneaky deep. It works on these levels that we're not even aware of. So I was kind of just going through life. I was writing music. I was encouraged to start writing this spiritual music. I started writing these kirtans, which are call and response meditation practices. And I wasn't really thinking about how the sound was working on me. I was using it in an intentional way. And again, I'll get back to that. But it wasn't like sound, heal me. I wasn't doing it specifically, especially to heal myself. I was just doing this practice because I loved it, because it felt good to me. I could feel the primordial chakra tones shifting energy in my body. And I felt good. It gave me kind of like a high feeling. And so I just kept doing it. And then when I looked back and I started preparing for these presentations, I was like, oh, look at all these huge changes that happened in such a short time. And the only thing that really changed for me in that time was using so much more sound and music in this intentional way. So one of the things I love about sound, and Trish Devney, who introduced me to singing bowls, or to crystal singing bowls, I knew about Tibetan singing bowls. She likes to say that sound does the work for you. And that's what I love the most about this. So let's get into a little bit of what I mean by intentionality. Because in order for sound literally takes the disharmony, the frequencies in our body that are out of harmony, because our body vibrates at frequencies, our chakras vibrate at frequencies, our aura and our etheric body, all of these things. And I think the frequencies are kind of unique to us. And I'm going to get more into that in my chakra course. But when we all have disharmony in the body. I mean, being alive is kind of being in disharmony. So the sound brings the body back in harmony without us having to necessarily know what's going on if we use it in an intentional way. So what do I mean by that? I mean using sound in presence for or with the intention to make change. And again, it's not like I have to be like, oh, kidney, I want you to work better and here's my note. Although we're going to do a little bit of that tonight just for fun. But that's the wonderful thing about sound, and the fact that it will work whether you're aware of it or not if you use it in this intentional way. So, and I say this a lot, I think I said this last week about movement. If you just run on a treadmill blindly, that's not intentional movement. Intentional movement is being present in your body and moving in a way that feels good to you, connecting with your intuition, connecting with your spirituality. And that's kind of what we're talking about with sound. But the amazing thing about sound is I don't think you don't have to be in this amazing state of oneness and openness, and you don't have to be connected. We say that a lot of times about biotouch. One of the things I love about biotouch is that you just touch. You just put your fingers on the skin, and you don't have to be in a certain mood or you don't have to have a certain intention. I think the sound works. The more intention you have, the more powerful it is. But if you're playing singing bowls in the background, that's changing your body. And the most powerful thing I think that you can do is to use your own voice. And that's what we're going to do today. And that's what I'm going to talk more about. And I realize I'm jumping all around in my notes because I'm really excited. So bear with me if I have to kind of look down and find my place. So I said a lot of this stuff. So I already said that I didn't start out on the sound and music practice. It sort of just happened. And that's how the best intuitive kind of paths open up to us, is that we get into flow, we get into that state of integration, and things just naturally come to us. That's what I talk about when I'm talking about abundance versus scarcity. When you're in abundance, things just kind of start to flow to you and through you. So as I was doing these new practices, I started to notice I was feeling deeper vibrations. I was feeling vibrations in areas of my body that I couldn't really access prior to starting the sound practice. And I knew that my intuition and creativity were really exploding, were really opening up. So, but I didn't start out, I didn't say, oh, I'm going to get rid of my terrible endometriosis pain by using sound. That happened, but to me, it was almost like a side effect. It wasn't my goal when I started this sound practice that I've been doing and writing this intentional music. And just like when I started writing my kirtans, I didn't sit down and write my first kirtan, which is Ang Namo, thinking this is going to be a clearing kirtan. This is going to clear energy out of the body and out of the space. And so if you've had a bad day or you're feeling kind of nasty or bleh, you can play Ang Namo and it clears that energy out for you. And especially more so if you sing along with it. That just kind of came through me. And after I started practicing it myself, I was like, oh, this is a clearing kirtan. And then I wrote the Divine Mother kirtan, and that's a call to action. And then I wrote the pain release kirtan, which was specifically for pain release. So as I've started working more and more with this intentionality behind my creation of music and sound, I see that I'm channeling certain vibrations or frequencies that have an actual purpose, which is amazing. And anyone can do this. And that's why we're going to do this tonight. So this is not something that is unique to me. It's something that's opened up for me. And it helps that I have a musical background as far as the writing and everything. But just making sound with your body is something that anyone can do. So I wanted to mention a little bit the types of sound I'm talking about, because I keep using the word sound. Like, what does that mean? So I made a short list here of just things that came into my head. And of course, this is not an all-inclusive list, but we're talking about things like chant, things like intentional music and singing bowls, whether they be crystal or the Tibetan metal kind, which you've probably seen me use my little bowl, and we'll probably use that tonight. And toning. And toning is what we're going to focus on tonight. So I wrote down a definition of toning that I liked. But I want to mention briefly before I get into that, the one other thing I had on my list, which is breathing with sound. So using sound while you're breathing. A couple of weeks ago, I went into a lot of detail about the oxytocin breathing. That's the ha. So when you make that ha sound, you're actually vibrating the vagus nerve. You're bringing your body out of that sympathetic, that fight, flight, or freeze, back into the parasympathetic or the ease response. And the sound is what does that. If you've done yoga, you might have seen people use lion's breath, and that's a real weird looking breath. I'm gonna look real silly here for a minute, but it moves a lot of energy. So that's called lion's breath, and you hear that sound, that and that's part of the release. That's part of the movement of that energy. You're moving more energy out of your body. It's more detoxifying when you make that weird sound and stick your tongue out than just taking a little silent breath. So we actually use different types of breathing with sound. And now I want to talk more about toning, because we're going to experiment around a little bit with toning. So here's the definition I wrote down that I really liked. And we're talking about vocal toning. Vocal toning means using your voice to harmonize and balance your cells and energetic pathways. And oftentimes vocal toning is one note per breath. When we do the primordial chakra tones, that's a single note per breath. So you're just holding one note out for an entire breath. And I call that kind of prescribed toning. I completely made that up. It's just what came into my head. When you're sort of being told to hold a single note, or sometimes like if you go to a Kundalini yoga class and you're doing Satnam, it's usually done at the same pitch, at the same frequency. That's kind of prescribed toning. But the type of toning that really that toning absolutely lights my fire. I was going to say the type of toning that really lights my fire, because that primordial chakra practice has changed my life. But the type of toning that I have more fun with, let's put it that way, is this kind of free form or intuitive toning. And if you've watched any of the last probably 6 or 7 shows, maybe somewhere in December, I started using this kind of intuitive toning in my practice with you. And this is something that I've done before, but it never really occurred to me to share it until I met this amazing woman named Mama Donna, who does vocal freedom and all sorts of cool things. And if you follow my social media, she and I will be working together coming up soon and probably offering some things. So keep an eye out for that, because she's amazing. And I heard her tone, and I was it was like the first time I heard the crystal singing bowls. I felt something in myself just open. And again, I felt this kind of fire ignite, and I couldn't help myself. We were on a Zoom and I was muted, luckily, and I just started toning with her. It was like the music just started coming out of me, or these tones just started coming out of me. And so I started doing that more and more. And then I started sharing it here, and it's just such a freeing, joyful practice. It's kind of like free form movement. If you've ever done anything where you just put music on and let your body move. So we're just going to let our voices move. We're going to let our voices come through. And again, I said the vibration of your own voice is one of the most powerful tools we have to change our frequency, to take that disharmony and transform it to harmony. And I always say this when I talk about sound, and it's very important to me. And if you've heard it before, just bear with me. You probably could not hear this enough times, because I'm still telling it to myself. When we're using sound in an intentional way in this spiritual practice, this is not about aesthetics. This is not about beauty. This is not about how wonderful our voice sounds. This is not about carrying a tune. This is not about matching my pitch, which that's a really hard habit for me to break. When I first started the primordial chakra tones, I kept wanting to match the exact tone that I heard as I was learning them, rather than finding my own tone. But your body knows the frequencies that it will respond to. And that's why using your own voice is so powerful, because you can intuitively tap into whatever frequency your body is calling for and introduce that into your energetic field. And that's a little bit of what we're going to do tonight. So I'm going to describe a little bit of what we're going to do in the meditation, because once we get into the meditation, I don't want to get too much back into this mind space, because I really want us to get intuitive and have fun with this tonight. And you might start laughing at yourself. I might start laughing at myself, because sometimes these sounds are weird. And that's the other thing, like, about aesthetics. You may be making a sound that doesn't sound like a musical note. You know, you might be making a weird kind of a guttural grunting sound, or like a weird, almost like a nails on a chalkboard. That's part of this process. So we have to kind of retrain our brain a little bit. We have to let go of that feeling that everything has to sound good, that we want to hear the scales that we're used to hearing in the Western world, which tend to be major, minor, or modal, or, we want to hear a beautiful tone coming out. We don't want to hear like, something that sounds like it came out of a horror movie. But sometimes that's what our body needs. And so allow yourself to go there. No one's listening to you. I mean, unless you're out in public somewhere, I can't hear you. You look at me, I'm totally willing to make a fool out of myself here, making all these weird noises and stuff. So let yourself try this, and let yourself practice this if this calls to you. If this is a practice that, like me, really excites you, and you feel this kind of ooh about that, give it a try. Try it in the next few days. Come back to the meditation. And I'm going to describe just briefly one of the things we're going to do in the meditation, again, because I want to get out of the mind space and kind of into really that intuitive physical space. And I made my throat sore by making my guttural example noise. So I'm going to do some toning to start. I'm going to share with you the sound invocation that I got from Trish Devney that I love. And to me, that's enough to bring you into that intentional space. Saying this invocation with intentionality brings you into that intentional space. And you don't have to do anything beyond that. And you'll hear the words of it. It's basically like asking for your highest good. And we've talked about that before. We're sort of asking sound to work for the highest good of all. And that's the highest intention you can hold. So beyond that, you don't need to think about specifically what you're doing until we get to the part of the meditation where I'm going to ask you to focus on something in your body or in your emotional state right now and send some sound to that area. And I'm going to demonstrate that and possibly sound weird. So hopefully you won't feel weird about it, and so that you get an idea of what I'm talking about. So right now, my throat feels kind of itchy and dry because I've been talking and I was making that weird noise. So my throat's a little bit uncomfortable. So I'm going to kind of close my eyes and really get in touch with my throat, kind of send my awareness to my throat. And then I'm going to make the noise that my throat is calling for. I'm not going to think about this noise. I'm going to let it come out of me. It might be really weird. It might be pretty. I don't know. But this is the noise that my throat is calling for. So that was a little bit weird, right? But my throat actually feels way better already. And you could hear me going down and up in pitch, and that's moving that energy. It kind of dropped some energy out and then evened itself out. I didn't think about that. It just came out of my body. And so that's what I'm going to ask you to do when we get to that portion of the meditation. And we might do it a few times. I don't really plan these other than I have a vague idea. So have fun with it. Be gentle with yourself. As always, don't judge yourself. If you're afraid to make sound, just give it a shot. And it might be a tiny little sound like this. And that's okay. If that's your sound, that's your sound. Or you might be inspired to really get into it, and that's fine too. Whatever happens, just let it flow and have fun with this. Like, let's be playful. That is a part of spirituality that I think sometimes we miss. We get very serious, and I'm very guilty of this for sure. And we've done a lot of kind of heavy work in these Wind Down Wednesday practices. So this is a fun practice. If you start to kind of laugh at yourself, then laugh at yourself. That's maybe part of the frequency that your body is calling for. All right. Oh, and the last thing I wanted to say, and I forgot, I usually tip my glasses up so they're not quite so glary. There we go. If you want to practice some chant, which is also a great way to get comfortable with sound, and if this is a little like out there and weird for you and you want a little more of like a prescribed sound, you want someone to kind of guide you in what to do, the meditation that I did last week, which was essentially meditation for people who can't meditate, was involved like a little short chant that you can practice. So you can always go back and watch that one. It's on my website, which is paulataylorenergy.com, and it's still up on Facebook. All right, let's have some fun. We're going to have purple hair fun tonight. So get yourself nice and comfortable. Wiggle your toes. Get your bottom situated. If you need to do any movements before you settle into your body, you can see I do this, I think, every week where I kind of, you can see me moving around a little bit, and that's just discharging extra energy so that I can sit. It's funny, we're going to do toning because my voice is getting all froggy, so it won't be pretty, and that's okay. So let's start, as we often do, with 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Add that ha sound to bring that ease response into your body. And do that 2 more times. You're already practicing sound healing just by using that ha sound. And then I'm going to use that invocation that Trish likes to use, that I use now in my practice. And you can repeat after me or just allow the resonance of this invocation to come into your space. Let the sound of light surround me. Let the light of sound guide me. Let sacred sound move through me for the harmony of all. Allow that crown chakra, the area at the top of your head, to gently open. Invite that harmony, that frequency, that resonance of the highest good to come into your head. Let it come through your face, your jaw, into your neck and throat. Gently let this high vibration flow into your arms. Let it come into your chest and your upper back. Allow this highest of harmonic frequencies to come into your belly, into your low back, and into your pelvis. As you scan through the body here, notice any areas that are calling for your attention. We'll come back to those. Allow this vibration of the highest good to flow into your thighs and your knees. Let it come into your lower legs, the shins and calves, into your ankles and feet. Allow yourself to feel settled here. You can do another couple of those oxytocin breaths. Let yourself come into ease in the physical body here. And let's just experiment for a moment. Without anything in mind, just make a couple of siren noises. Oh. And as you're doing that, notice if you feel the frequency as you come down, drop in the body, and then go back up as the pitch of your voice goes up. And it doesn't matter how high or low you go here, it can be a short siren. But just notice, oh. Slow it down and just notice how that feels in your body. Notice if there's somewhere in the body that siren is kind of getting stuck. There's something that's calling to your attention. You can release those. That's a great way to warm up your voice. It's a good way to just move some energy up and down through your body, through the energetic field. And now let yourself focus on an area physically in the body. We're going to do this twice. So the first time, focus on a physical area. And the second time, focus on an emotion. So focus on an area of your physical body that's been bothering you. You can bring your hand to this area if you want, if you can reach it. You don't have to, but sometimes that helps really bring your awareness to that part of the body. And let yourself really connect with this part of the body. You can keep your hand there or not, whatever you like. And just hold the intention that you're tuning into the frequency that this part of your body is calling for. And the rhythm. You might find yourself wanting to use consonants. You can just use an ooh or an ah. But especially if there's stuck energy, sometimes ta 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 ta, using a little bit of an articulation will move energy. So just see what comes to you here. There's no rules at all. You can use a word, you can use a sound or a syllable. You can just use a long ah, ooh sound. But focus on that area of the body and then let yourself start to make some sound. Whoa, 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 whoa. And if you're watching me, you can see my head and my fingers moving. And as I use the sound, I can actually feel the energy moving in the area of the body that I'm working on. So you can try something like that. You might find that your body does that naturally. You might find that you prefer to be in stillness. But try that a few times. I'm going to hold some silence here because I don't want my sound to interfere with your sound. And then I'll bring my sound in again so you feel less alone. Keep your awareness and your intention on the part of your body you're focusing on. You can make some sound and then let it go for a bit and then bring it back. You might find your sound changes As you work with this area and some energy begins to free up, the frequency that your body is calling for may change. So the pitch of your voice may change, or the sound that you're making may change. Let yourself be guided by your intuition here. And check in with yourself in between rounds here. Let your sound relax for a minute and notice if that part of the body feels any different. And it may not, and that's fine. But you may find that you notice a subtle shift or a big shift. You may find that you'll want to come back to this exercise again. And as always, you are free to do this as many times as you like. So let's do one more round of sending sound into this physical area of the body. And again, notice if your sound has changed, has shifted as you've worked on this. You may just be sitting there wondering when they're going to haul me off to the loony bin, and that's completely fine. But let yourself send sound to this area once more. And then take a nice big oxytocin breath. You can ground it at the end with that oomph sound if you'd like. Let go of that exercise for now, knowing that you can come back to it if you like. And we're going to do the same thing, focusing on an emotional feeling, an emotional state. And this may also have a physical, I often feel, I'm already here. I often feel emotions in a physical part of my body, in my chest especially. So again, if you're getting a physical feeling with your emotion, you can bring your hands there if you'd like, just to help focus. But focus on the emotion rather than the physical feeling at this time. Try to name your emotion if you can. It could be very vague. It could just be fear. It could be love. This could be a beautiful emotion. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to be something that feels like it's in disharmony. If you feel that you're in harmony emotionally, then explore the joy that you feel. Bring more joy through sound. But if you are feeling something like fear or grief or anger, try to name your emotion. And then do the same thing we did for the physical body. Let your intuition guide you to the sound, to the frequency that will address that emotion. You are so loved. You are love. Let yourself be loved. And you can see there I was guided to use words, to use an affirmation or a mantra. You don't have to do that, but if you're guided to, you can. So give yourself permission to sound your emotion here, to send the frequency that your emotion is asking for. And it may be a frequency of rage. It may just be a frustrated scream. That is healing in this intentional space. So let yourself do what comes up. And as always, if you need to breathe, if you've got emotions coming up, be gentle with yourself. If you need to stop, then stop. If you need to get up and throw something, just don't hurt anyone or break anything. Try to throw a pillow at the ground. Whatever comes up here, just be gentle with it. You are loved. You are loved. Let yourself be loved. Let yourself release that sound for a moment. Take a big sigh if you'd like. We're going to do that one more time, but just check in here. Check in with your emotion and notice if it's shifted. I started with fear, and now I feel love. You can see that I'm smiling. I feel a shift in my energetic state. If you don't feel a shift, as always, that's okay. You can come back to this practice. If we're dealing with dense emotions, it's going to take a while to move that energy. It took me months to move the energy in my lower chakras using those primordial chakra tones. So let's do one more round here, sending your sound into your emotion in whatever way your intuition is calling you to. Deserve love. You are love. Let yourself be loved. Take a big deep breath in through your nose and sigh it out. Notice how your energy has shifted from when we started this meditation. Maybe you feel agitated or stirred up, and that's okay. Let yourself breathe now. Let yourself let go of anything that's come up as much as you can in this moment. Knowing you can come back to this practice, you can access parts of yourself that you can't articulate with words, that you can't necessarily bring to the front of your mind, to your conscious mind. Allow yourself to sit in this energetic shift for a few last moments. If you'd like, you can very gently allow the top of your head, that crown chakra, to close, or leave it open with the intention that it is open for your highest good, for your harmony and the harmony of others. Once again, allow that harmony, that unconditional love and joy to flow down your body. Let it come into the head and neck, into your arms and shoulders, your wrists and hands. Allow your personal harmonic vibration of unconditional love to flow into your chest, into your back and belly, into your hips and your pelvis. Let it come into your thighs and your knees, your lower legs, your ankles and feet. You are loved. You are loved. Let yourself be loved. Take one last nice deep breath if you like. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Roll your wrists and ankles if you'd like. Just let your body move around a little bit. Let yourself come back fully to the full body. And affirm with me, I am fully present in my body. I am fully present and in harmony in my body. Divine harmony and joy flow through my physical and emotional bodies. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun with this. I hope you will revisit this and allow this intentional sound to come into your life in whatever form that takes, whether it's this playful toning or chanting or just listening to intentional music, choosing music for your space that uplifts you, that helps you clear energy. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your night and a wonderful rest of your week. And I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesday.